Welcome to Because You Asked. I'm Barry Nussbaum. Today we're back with Ask the Ambassador with Ambassador Danny Ayalon, former Israeli ambassador to the United States and Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel, with some pressing questions about to be answered on what's going on in Israel. Danny, thanks for joining me again.
Thank you. Pleasure, Barry.
Let's talk about the crisis in Gaza. Today, there are tens of thousands of Palestinians whooped up like crazy people on the border by their Hamas leadership, rushing the fence, throwing stones and burning tires at the Israeli troops, trying to protect Israelis that are living on the other side of the border, and in some cases firing live rounds of ammunition across the border through the fence. What should the Israeli response be, and what should the world response be?
Well, first of all, Barry, the Israeli response should be very, very strong. And I think what the IDF and the Israeli government are doing now is just right. No sovereign country can have such an invasion, and not just an invasion of peaceful people, but of people who are meaning not well for Israelis. You have to stop it and keep your sovereignty. It's a right of self-defense. It's the basic right of every nation. And what we do is we keep them out. At all costs, we need to keep them out, and this is what we're doing. I believe the international community should do is condemn the Hamas and ask them and demand that they will stop inciting the people. Basically what they do is they brainwash them. They deny them any human amenities. They make them just so deplorably miserable, so they have nothing to lose, and then they send them to the border. And not only that, they send the children and women first.
Oh, a 7-year-old child was put to the border fence.
Yes.
And fortunately, the IDF was able to reunite the child with the parents.
Absolutely. So I think the Hamas should understand that not only they bear the responsibility, but there is a consequence. And the consequence is that all those Hamas leaders should be tried in Hague for war crimes.
I couldn't agree with you more, and yet we're two people shouting into the wilderness this afternoon. The news out of the EU is that European leaders are calling for an investigation as to the disproportionate Israeli response, and the UN Security Council is calling for an investigation as well. I wonder what the appropriate response is. Is it to drop leaflets, stop trying to kill Israelis? Is it to put up signs, please be nice? What would be the appropriate response according to the Europeans and the United Nations where you served?
That's the whole thing. They have no good answers. They are very, very easy to point fingers, but without any answers. And I can tell you there is a huge double standard here, because no European country would let illegal immigrants or invaders to come across their borders. So they don't have any solutions. Israel actually is the most humane country in the world, and in terms of collateral damage, the Israeli army is doing not only its best, but it's better than any other military force on earth in terms of limiting any collateral damage and actually protecting human beings even against their own wishes. Certainly of their
I agree with you, but what's going to happen? They're calling for around the time of Israeli Independence Day, which the Palestinians call the Nakba, the catastrophe.
Right.
They want the fence rushed and knocked down, with 10,000 people invading southern Israel, where we were just filming a few weeks ago, live there, and it was peaceful and it was fields of crops.
Right.
What will Israel do if and when 10,000 people pour through that fence?
Two things. First of all, more of the same, but in much more intensive and extensive ways to stop them. Secondly, there are some tactical issues, of course, that we are not at liberty to tell about, but there are some ways also to stop them in their territory before they come very close to the fence. And then there is another measure that has not been tried yet, and this is deterrence. That means those who carelessly send them and brainwash them, the leaders of the Hamas, who are just talking about they're hell-bent on the destruction of the state of Israel, and they say it. They are the ones who should bear the consequences. That means they are fair game. And I believe if they will understand that their lives is at risk, just as they want to put these babies and these poor children at risk, maybe they will have second thoughts.
Well, we're going to see in the next couple of weeks. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Thanks, Danny.
Pleasure.
Send your questions to Because You Asked. I'll answer you at barry@americantruthproject.org. And if you send a question to me, I'll make sure the ambassador sees it as well.